Hi everyone, I am Sunanda Manke and welcome to my channel Concept Tech 2018. This is a walkthrough video on 8086 and it covers all aspects related to 8086. Coming to the interrupts of 8086, we have seen the basic architecture, the pin diagram. Interrupt is basically is a method of creating a temporary halt during the execution of the program, and it allows peripheral devices to access the microprocessor. The microprocessor responds to the interrupt with interrupt service routine, which is a short program to instruct the microprocessor on how to handle a particular interrupt. This shows the different types of interrupts. We have hardware interrupt and software interrupts. Hardware interrupts are the interrupts which are coming from the peripheral devices generated by the peripherals, and software interrupts are generated by the instructions written in the microprocessor. Maskable interrupts are interrupts which can be disabled, and non-maskable. These interrupts cannot be disabled. If that interrupt comes to the processor, it is to be served. Now, the interrupt types and priorities here. So, these are the different categories of the interrupts, and the corresponding priority is given. Reset has the highest priority. Then, internal interrupts and exceptions like divide by zero exception is there in 8086. Then we have software interrupts, non-maskable interrupts, and last priority is external hardware interrupts. Basically, interrupts are providing a mechanism for quickly changing the program environment. Transfer of program control is initiated by occurrence of event to the microprocessor or event in the external hardware connected to the processor. 8086 is capable of implementing any combination of 256 interrupts, which includes two hardware interrupts, NMI, non-maskable interrupt, and INTR. INTA bar is the acknowledgement of INTR. In addition to this, microprocessor also has software interrupts. INTN, N here stands for the interrupt type. It's a software interrupt, that is, you write this instruction and an interrupt is generated. Then if the trap flag is set, this interrupt is generated. It is for single step execution. It's a type 1 interrupt. Then we have an instruction INT3. This basically generates breakpoint interrupt. It's a type 3 interrupt. And when this interrupt is generated, 8086 stops the normal execution of the program and follows the breakpoint procedure. That is, breakpoints are put during the program and the microprocessor breaks the execution on those particular points, and the different status can be checked in between the execution of the program. INTO is type 4 interrupt. It's the interrupt on the overflow. So this interrupt is generated whenever overflow flag is set. Then we have processor exception interrupts. They also come under the category of software interrupts, and in 8086 we have divided by zero interrupt. It has highest priority. It's a type 0 interrupt. Now certain instructions are there for interrupts. First one is CLI, that is for clearing the interrupt flag. If when the interrupt flag is cleared, it disables the maskable interrupt, that is INTR. Setting the flag enables the INTR. INTN is a software interrupt as discussed in the previous slide also. When this instruction is written, the trap flag and interrupt flag are set to 0. All the flags, the code segment content and IP content are put on the stack, and the control is transferred to interrupt subroutine. INTO, interrupt on overflow. INT3, interrupt for breakpoint. It has already been discussed. IReturn, it is the returning from the interrupt, and when we return back from the interrupt, all the information which was put on the stack is given back. That is flag CS IP, the information comes back from the stack. Halt it waits for external interrupt or reset. It simply halts the operation of the microprocessor, and wait basically tests the test bar pin that we have already discussed. Now the hardware interrupts, the interrupts which are available on the pin of the IC, we have NMI and INTR. NMI is non-maskable interrupt. It's a type 2 interrupt. It is positive edge triggered. So request for service is automatically latched, being the edge triggered interrupt. It is normally used for major system faults. Being non-maskable interrupt, when this interrupt comes, microprocessor has to serve this interrupt, and that is the reason it is used for major system faults. When interrupt flag is 1, then only INTR is being served because it is a maskable interrupt. It's a non-vectored interrupt, so 8086 generates INTA, interrupt acknowledgement, when it receives INTR. Let's see different types here. Type 0 is divided by 0 interrupt. Type 1 is single step execution, which is used for debugging of the program. Type 2 is NMI interrupt. Type 3 is interrupt for breakpoint. Type 4 is overflow interrupt. Type 5 to type 31, they are reserved, they are not used in 8086. And type 32 to type 255, they are available for use, that is, these are user defined interrupt. Now, how the vector location is decided for interrupts? Whenever any vectored interrupt comes, microprocessor has to jump to some service subroutine. What is the location of that subroutine that is decided? So basically it is decided by an interrupt vector table. It basically is an address pointer table which is used to link the interrupt time number to the location of the subroutine. So basically the table gives the memory address or vector address for all interrupts. So whenever any interrupt is received by the processor, the corresponding subroutine address is copied from this table on the address bus, and thus the control is transferred to that subroutine. The interrupt table is located in the first 1024 bytes of memory location, that is, the address of the vector table is 0h2 3ffh. It contains 256 different 4-byte interrupt vectors, as you can observe here in the table. Each location in the table is of 8 bits, and so to generate the complete physical address, 4 bytes are required here. 2 bytes for segment address or base address and 2 bytes for offset address. So total 256 different 4-byte interrupt vectors are put in the interrupt vector table. The first 5 interrupt vectors, as we have discussed in the previous slide, they are already defined for 8086. Then the other interrupt vector, they are for 20286 upward processors from vector 5 to vector 31. And the last 224 vectors, that is from 32 to 255, they are available as user interrupt vectors. Now, what happens when an interrupt is received by the processor? When microprocessor completes executing the current instruction, it checks for the interrupt, whether there is any interrupt which has come to the processor. If any interrupt comes to the processor, first of all, the contents of the flag register are pushed onto the stack. Both interrupt and trap flag, they are cleared, which disables INTR pin and the trap or single step feature. Then code segment register is put on the stack. Instruction pointer is also pushed on the stack. And then interrupt vector contents are fetched and placed in CSN IP. So basically what is happening is, current instruction which is being executed, that address is put on the stack. The new address for the ISR is copied from the vector table to CSN IP, and the execution of the program is started. Right? Thus, The next instruction is executes at the interrupt service procedure, which is addressed by the vector. Now when the execution is complete, then again the control is returned back to the main routine and all the stack contents are retrieved, and again the microprocessor starts executing the main routine which it was doing before the interrupt came. After interrupt details, let's look into the memory interfacing part. Memory interfacing includes the details about the connection of different memory devices to the processor. We'll start with the discussion on memory banks. As we know that the microprocessor has 1 MB of memory. This memory is divided into two memory banks, even bank and odd bank. Even bank means it contains all even addresses starting from say 0000H, next will be 02H, then 04H, and similarly the odd bank contains all odd addresses, that is it will start from 01H, then 03H, and so on and so forth. Each memory bank is 8-bit wide. Okay, that is 8-bit data is saved at each location in the memory bank. As you can observe in the figure, we have low bank which is called even bank and high bank which is the odd bank. You can observe the addresses 1357 in odd bank and 0246 in even bank. Okay. Now we know that 8086 has 16-bit data bus. So we can divide this data bus into two 8-bit data bus. D0 to D7 will be used for even bank and D8 to D15 it will be used for odd bank. The microprocessor can either write to even bank alone or odd bank alone, or it can write in both the banks simultaneously because it has 16-bit of data lines. And for selecting this, we have A0 and BHE bar signal. These two signals are used for selection of the memory banks. BHE bar stands for bus high enable bar. A low on BHE bar indicates data is transferring through higher order data bus. And similarly, low on A0 indicates we are selecting the even address, that is data will be transferred on lower order data bus. So you can observe the table here. When both BHE bar and A0 are low, both banks are selected, that is data will be transferred on all 16 bits, and that is both the memory, the data will be written on both the memories, odd bank as well as even bank. When BHE bar is low and A0 is high, only odd bank data is available, that is data is transferred on higher order data lines D8 to D15. When BHE bar is high and A0 is low, then the data is transferred on lower order data lines, that is D0 to D7. Now, how this bank selection is accomplished? It is done in two ways. Either separate write signals are used or separate decoders are used for bank selections. So let's see how the memory is connected in both the cases. In this diagram, separate decoders are being used. You can observe here we have high bank and low bank. Number of memory devices are there for higher bank as well as lower bank. And we are using separate decoders for both the banks. Right? You can see one decoder is enabled by BHE bar signal, another decoder is enabled by A0 signal. So when A0 signal is low, then lower bank is selected. When BHE bar is low, higher bank is selected or odd bank is selected. Right? But this is not a very effective way because it requires more hardware. You need more hardware in this case, so it's not a very effective way, but sometimes it is used to conserve the energy as less power is required in this case. The most effective way to handle bank selection is to develop a separate write strobe for each memory bank. It requires only one decoder and thus it is saving memory and reducing the components. Separate read strobe is not required to be generated, as it is usually unnecessary because the microprocessor reads only the byte of data that they need at any given time. This was about even in odd addressing, which is used in 8086. Let's come to I/O interfacing. Here we'll discuss how I/O devices are connected to the processor. Basically, there are two methods of I/O addressing. One is I/O mapped I/O and second is memory mapped I/O. I/O mapped I/O is the most common technique which is used in processors. Here, this method is also called isolated I/O because here the I/O locations are isolated from the memory system in a separate I/O address space. The address for isolated I/O devices are called ports, and you can observe here they are separate from the memory. You can see the memory space is 1 MB from 00000H to FFFFH, whereas the I/O space is from 00000 to FFFFH. How the memory space is differentiated? It is differentiated using the instructions. Only in and out instructions are used in I/O mapped I/O, and these in-out instructions generate different control signals for I/O devices. I/O read and I/O write are generated for I/O devices, whereas we have memory read and memory write for memory devices. This is the decoder which is used for addressing I/O devices. Coming to the memory mapped I/O, here memory and I/O devices share the same space. So unlike the I/O mapped I/O, memory mapped I/O doesn't use in and out instruction. Instead, it uses the same instructions for data transfer which are used for the memory devices. Thus, I/O device here is treated as a memory location. The disadvantage here, as you can observe from the figure, portion of the memory system is used for I/O mapping, and which reduces the amount of memory which is available for other applications. But the advantage here is we do not need to generate separate control signals because the same control signals are used for I/O devices as well. This reduces the amount of circuitry required for decoding. Now, hardware part of 8086 is covered here. We can discuss the addressing modes which are used in 8086. Addressing modes basically refers to how the data which is used in operation is used by the microprocessor is addressed by the processor. Let's see different addressing modes here. This figure shows the type of addressing. Then we have example instructions and how the address for the data is generated in particular type of addressing. The first addressing mode is register addressing. As the name says, it transfers a copy of byte or word from the source register to destination register. Then we have immediate addressing. Here the data is directly transferred to register, that is, we are directly working on the data, so it is termed as immediate addressing. In direct addressing, the data is transferred between memory location and register, thus we are directly addressing the memory, but these type of instructions do not support memory to memory data transfer. Then we have register indirect addressing. Here the data is transferred between register and memory location, but the memory location is addressed by another register. Like example is move bx in bracket comma cl. So whenever you put anything in bracket, that refers to address. So whatever are the contents of register bx, that will act as the address. So here the bx contents are 0300H. So with the help of this contents, we will generate the physical address, which comes out to be 10300H. So the contents of this memory location is referred here, that is, the contents of CL register will be transferred to this memory location. When it comes to base plus index addressing, here what we are doing is basically when we are addressing the memory location here, the address is generated by base register plus an index register. In register direct addressing, it is just the base register. In base plus index addressing, it is base register as well as the index register. And in register relative addressing, the address is index or base register plus some displacement. Here it is bx plus 4. So the location will be 0300 plus 4, right? The last one is base relative plus index addressing. Here the memory location is addressed by base register, index register plus displacement. So these are basically different methods of addressing the data, which is either there in the memory location, or we are referring to immediate data, or we are referring to the data in the registers. Now let's summarize what we have studied in this video. 8086 is a 16-bit microprocessor and it has 20-bit address bus. Thus, memory addressing capacity is 1 MB. Its architecture is divided into two blocks: bus interface unit, which basically works as an interface to the external devices, and execution unit, whose major responsibility is to execute the instructions. There is a 6-byte prefetch queue in bus interface unit to implement the pipelining. 8086 operates in two modes, minimum and maximum mode. In minimum mode, it works as standalone processor, whereas in maximum mode, it is multi-processor communication system. Segmentation is done for memory management. That is, memory is divided into 16 segments of each of size 64 KB. And segment and offset registers are used in conjunction to generate 20-bit memory address to specify any memory location from 16-bit address. Total 256 interrupt vectors can be generated using interrupt vector table in 8086. I hope everything is clear about 8086 to you. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe my channel Concept Tech 20184 more such videos. Thank you.